We're here for the only Saturday afternoon of the 2025 Iowa City Jazz Festival. Thanks for joining us on KCCK. And I have the honor of being joined by composer, improviser, teacher, Mike Conrad. That's just one of his his many hats. He's been recognized for his arranging composings with 4 ASCAP Herb Albert Young Composer Awards, 7 Downbeat Awards, awards and commissions from the Contemporary Music Academy in Beijing, Bundes Jazz Orchestra, Airman of Note. The list goes on and on. Plus, he's performed all over the world and had such amazing. So your resume, I could do 15 minutes just on your resume so far, including a 2023 Semi-Nistico Award, Sonic Award, and you've worked with folks from Chris Mertz, who was here last night with the Jazz Orchestra, and also the great Bob Washut. Hey, Lewis Hayes, so many. Where does it start? Where did you start off with music and jazz?
Well, I started off, I'm an Iowa native. I started off in the Quad Cities. My parents still live there, and I grew up there. I grew up going to this festival in the summers and saw a lot of really inspiring performances on this stage that we're about to take later this afternoon. But yeah, I played classical piano, took some piano lessons, and started trombone in 5th grade band, and then just kind of got into jazz through this summer jazz program for junior high kids. It was my first experience with it, and I didn't really know what it was. I didn't have any clue what I was doing, but I knew that I really loved it. And so I had started to seek out the music, and my journey through learning jazz kind of came from checking out CDs at the public library. I just went to the jazz section. I remember they had the yellow tape on them, the way it was organized. And I kind of just went through like alphabetically and checked out like every jazz record that the Bettendorf Public Library had. And then through that, I kind of found my favorites and, started my obsessive kind of listening journey.
Well, sweet. And it's come full circle because now you are a noted jazz educator. I mean, among the many hats, the ones I haven't mentioned so far, the UNI Jazz Band 2, you direct UN Jazz 2. You teach courses and lessons in jazz improvisation, pedagogy, jazz methods, jazz theory, jazz piano, jazz composition, arranging. In 2024, you received the UNI's Outstanding Teaching Award. So obviously, education is something that's come full around. Now you're sharing it with so many people. And so what's it like to see these young faces come in and be able to share what you've gotten with them?
Oh man, I love teaching. I just had an experience last night actually at the jam session with a student who I'd worked with who was in high school and is now playing professionally in New York, and he just had some really nice things to say about some stuff I showed him back in the day, and those kinds of things are really rewarding. Of all the things you mentioned, the Outstanding Teaching Award is probably the thing I'm the most proud of, because teaching is so important. We have a lot of power and a lot of responsibility, and I take that really seriously, and it always brings me great joy to see our students out there doing what they're doing. Like my student Elena Ringsby was playing with the big band last night.
Yes.
She's sounding great. Levi Temple, who took some composition lessons with me, is on the stage, on the side stage right before my trio, and we just try to set them on the right path, and then they do their thing.
Man, it's got to be an amazing feeling.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of which, you are a multi-instrumentalist on top of everything else. How does that affect your composition and arranging techniques?
Yeah, well, I read a lot for big band, for like large jazz ensemble and orchestra and stuff like that. And being a trombonist as well as a pianist really helps in that regard, just to understand the brass side of things a little bit more. But then also my background in music education, having done a music ed degree at UNI. When you're kind of training to be a band director, you learn a little bit of all the instruments. You kind of have to have the basics on everything. So that really helped me as a writer, because I know, what instruments can and can't do, and what's hard for certain instruments and not for others. And so yeah, I've used that to my advantage when I write for the Iowa Jazz Composers Orchestra and other large groups like that. But the trio setting is a totally different thing. It's like, just piano, bass, and drums, and it's more about trying to create a framework for us to just like explore and be creative together,
Now talk about your experiences, but ranging from trio to, for example, Iowa Jazz Composers Orchestra, in which everybody in there is a jazz composer or arranger. So what's the difference between one group to the next, as it were, when you're dealing with a small group, which is more of a collaboration, I would guess, and dealing with you standing there looking at all these people who do what you do?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, I mean, the big band is really like I send all the emails and I organize all the stuff, but I don't want it. It's not like my big band. We play some of my music, but I really wanted to showcase all the great Iowa jazz composers we have. People like Chris Mertz and Bob Washut, who you mentioned earlier, and so many others who are in the band. It's kind of interesting. I feel like the large group, we're always trying to get more of that small group dynamic going on within the large ensemble. So like we have all these things that are scripted and very specific, and you have to play the notes and rhythms, but there are elements of improvisation in it as well. That's what makes it jazz music. Yeah. So when we get to the solo sections and stuff, I always want it to feel more like the kind of small group setting.
More of a jam than a concert.
Yeah. And then sometimes in the trio setting, I almost want it to feel like a big band, where like when we're playing the very specifically orchestrated things like the head of the tune, and we want it to have that kind of ensemble feel and that tightness as well. So I don't know, I think they kind of inform each other in an interesting way.
Oh, cool. Now, speaking of your trio, you don't have your regular trio with you today. The regular trio is you, Cassius Goins, and Katie Ernst.
That's right.
And today you have another great that we're very familiar with, Drew Morton, sitting in today. How'd that come about? Yeah,
so Katie and I have known each other for a long time. We went to jazz camp together in high school in Wisconsin. And I've been playing with her for a long time. She and Cassius recorded with me on my first trio album, Reconnect, which came out in 2022, and we played at this festival back then. But she's the touring bassist for Iron and Wine.
Oh, cool.
Indie folk superstar. And their tour got extended on the early side of the tour, so she's with them right now. It ended up just kind of overlapping. And, but Drew is somebody I've known even longer than Katie, going back to my middle school days in the Quad Cities. We both grew up in the Quad Cities. He's from Moline, Illinois. And we've played together in all sorts of configurations over the years, in Chris Mertz's quartet and in the big band that we were talking about. So he's a musician I really know well and really trust. And he's gotten a chance to play some of this music from the Pretzel Letters album with me at Noche in Des Moines back in April, and then this past Sunday in the Quad Cities. So yeah, he'll be ready to go.
It sounds like it's an excellent problem to have.
Yeah, I know. Can't go wrong.
Now, we talked earlier about your next project. Now, is this a project for your trio or a larger ensemble? But I know you're working on material for a new disc. What are we looking forward to? Yeah, so
Pretzel Letters is a trio album featuring Cassius Goins and Katie Ernst. We recorded in December in Chicago. New original music inspired by members of my family.
Cool.
So yeah, a lot of personal stories and kind of childhood memories involved in the inspiration for the music. So that's the stuff we're going to be playing at the festival today.
I was going to ask.
And it is out. It's available on my website and on Bandcamp right now. And it's going to be on all the streaming platforms very soon. I think this next week even.
Oh, sweet. Looking forward to it, man.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to your performance today. You're going to be taking the stage at 2 p.m., the main stage, Strauss Community Stage here. And how many times have you performed at the Iowa City Jazz Festival?
Oh, man, I don't know. I haven't really kept track. But
maybe Dennis can help with that.
This will be the second time for the trio. We played on the Pedmall stage by the Fountain a few years back. I've played with Chris Mertz's Shorter Stories here. I played with John Ilabuni's band. I've played on the side stage a number of times. Jackson Churchill last year. When I was in college, all the time with my own groups and with Cassius Goins, his band Groove Theory, played here as well. So. Yeah, it's been a bunch of times, and I always love it. It's my favorite place to be in the summer is the Iowa City Jazz Festival. Well,
we're lucky to have you here. Thank you so much. The Mike Conrad Trio, 2 o'clock this afternoon at the Strauss Community Stage, the main stage here at the Iowa City Jazz Festival. Mike Conrad, thank you so much, man. Looking forward to
it. Appreciate it.